The sequel.
The sequel. Well, anyway, here we go. Thank you, Dad. That was a pleasure. Thank you for all coming. I'm writing a series of novels entitled The Five Books of Moses that offers an alternate, somewhat surreal history of New York. Last year, the swing voter of Staten Island, the first book, set in 1980, introduced Yulee, who was investigating the dirty bomb attack of Manhattan. It was all conceived before 9/11, by the way. Let's see, in the second novel, The Sacrificial, Circumcision of the Bronx, you'll find out the meaning of the title as we read the section. Yulee finds a suspect, Paul Moses, and investigates his possible motives for this bombing. Robert Moses was a controversial political figure who had a hand in building all of New York's major highways, as well as many of the bridges, parks, housing projects, and on and on. While some admired that he was able to get many things done, others feel that he took too many liberties for someone who was never elected to public office and was essentially a bully. Robert Moses' older brother was Paul Moses. Using unusual techniques, Yulee examines Paul's life and ways in which Robert Moses sabotaged his older brother, whom many regarded as brilliant. This is, if you can't tell, it's a bit of a mix between fact and fiction, what I'm doing here, but anyway, let's not open that door. Anyway. The two haven't spoken in nearly 20 years. Let's see, it's the early 1950s and Paul works as a school teacher. He lives with his wife and baby girl in the East Tremont section of the Bronx. And here we go. At 1:38 on the afternoon of December 4th, 1951, 10 minutes before fifth period ended, some kid knocked on Mr. Moses' classroom door with a note saying that he should call home as soon as possible. His first panicked thought was that something had happened to his newborn. Why else would he get this message in the middle of the school day? He asked the teacher in the adjacent class to keep an eye on his students and dashed off. When he reached his wife, Lucretia, on the phone, she told him that she had just received some kind of legal document stating that all the residents on their block had to move within the year. "This can wait till I get home," he said, imagining it was all a mistake. When he arrived 2 hours later, he found that a number of neighbors had collected in the street, chatting with each other. Lucretia quickly showed him the notice that had been taped to their door. It stated that they were in the path of the new Cross Bronx expressway. The proposed roadway cut a swath between 176th Street and Fairmount Place, plowing through 7 blocks of residential housing. Immediately he envisioned it, a man-made fault line opening from east to west, 225 feet of concrete roadway coming right at them, tearing the earth in two. According to the letter, all residents on the street, for blocks in both directions, had 9 months to vacate their premises and find new accommodations. "Hey, Paul," he heard. His neighbor, Robert Ward, was crossing the street holding up a road map. "Check out this freaking highway. Looks like the Bronx is getting circumcised." "We're supposed to sacrifice our homes so that assholes from Jersey can get to Long Island quicker," Paul responded. "Paul," another voice shouted over to him, "your last name's Moses. You're not related to this clown, are you?" It was Carl Stein from half a block down. He came over with another copy of the same letter. Glancing at the bottom of the notice for the first time, Paul saw that it was signed by City Construction Coordinator Robert Moses, his brother. "No relation." "Too bad," Stein said. Lucretia peered down nervously. She never had any reason to lie to any of her neighbors or friends before. Paul excused himself and went into their house, to the upstairs bathroom, and locked the door. "I knew it," he thought furiously. "That cocksucker has tracked me down, and now he's coming after my family. I should have strangled him when I had the chance." When he heard Lucretia knocking around nervously in the bedroom, he splashed cold water on his face, flushed the toilet, and came out to comfort her. Over the next hour or so, as more neighbors gathered along the sidewalk, they started pooling their resources. One fellow from across the street had a cousin in the mayor's office. He worked for the Department of Transportation. Another woman's brother was a lawyer, but he lived in Des Moines. "We got to organize right away," Paul announced for all to hear. After watching so many other neighborhoods being ripped in half by his brother's highways, he realized immediately what they had to do. What are you going to say?" Mrs. Rice asked. "That the city can't have a freeway because we like our homes?" "We have to tell people that if this can happen to us, it can happen to them," Paul responded. "And we have to show the city an alternative route for the expressway that displaces fewer families." "What do you mean, like a tunnel?" No, they can easily run the highway north of Crotona Park," Robert Ward pointed out. All of their street was filled with single-family homes. The next block over had a number of large apartment buildings. Paul pointed out that they must have gotten notices too. "We should go over there and start organizing them as well." Ward, Stein, Rice, and some of the others agreed to head over on Saturday to garner support. Within a matter of days, 300 people had joined an ad hoc neighborhood committee calling itself ETNA, East Tremont Neighborhood Association. They agreed to meet on a weekly basis in the multi-purpose room at the YMHA. 2 weeks later, everyone got a second letter stating that a tenant relocation bureau was going to help everyone find new accommodations. Indeed, they had already helped those in the Section 1 portion of the planned roadway. Though he fervently wished to take a leading role in the committee, Paul remained in the background, fearful that he would be revealed as Robert Moses's brother. He met up with a group of neighbors soon after to check on the progress that had been made thus far on the first part of the expressway. As they drove eastward toward Section 1, they could hear jackhammers and see clouds of dust rising in the air. Just before they spotted the hills of rubble and the earth-moving machines, they came upon rows and rows of barren tenements and empty single-family homes. They parked in front of a condemned apartment building. Broken furniture and garbage, including long shards from a shattered mirror that once lined the hallway, covered the floor of the defunct lobby. The stink of human excrement filled the dark room. Several of the men stepped inside. "Hey, get out of there!" yelled Karen Farkas, one of the older members of the committee. "You're going to get us all mugged." As they exited the wrecked building, they passed a hard-worn blonde in her 20s, pushing a stroller inside. 2 toddlers followed slowly. "Where do you think you're going, young lady?" Mrs. Farkas asked, fearful for the petite woman's safety. "Mind your damn business." "Pardon? Who the hell are yous anyway?" said the young woman with a thick local accent. "Allow me to introduce," Mrs. Farkas replied. "We're from East Tremont. We all live in houses that are in the path of the cross Bronx, and we wanted to find out how the planners dealt with the homeowners further down the line." "Oh, you're in for a real treat," the blonde said. Are you being evicted from here?" Paul asked. "More like evicted to here. We were kicked out about 6 months ago from our home further east, but the relocation bureau couldn't find us no place, so they stuck us in this dump. The earlier renters, they already got kicked out earlier." They're letting you live here?" Paul asked. "Not for nothing. We have to pay rent, and we have to be able to leave within 72 hours. You're paying rent for this?" gasped another East Tremonter. "There are about 100 families who have moved here. Hell, some of them have been moved 2 or 3 times. They just kick them like old cans up the eviction route," the young mother explained, then barked at her 2 children who were playing among the shards of broken glass. "So didn't the tenant relocation bureau offer you any apartments?" asked Mrs. Farkas. She let out a sharp sigh to keep from crying and said, "You wouldn't put a dog in those places, and I ain't fooling." Paul took $5 from his wallet. Others pitched in, and without saying a word, they offered the money to the young mother, who quickly snatched it and moved along. They walked around the vicinity and spotted at least a dozen other empty apartment buildings. Windows had been broken, doors were hanging off their hinges, piping had been vandalized, yet people were still living in some of the apartments. As the group drove back to East Tremont, not one of them spoke. Soon, another flurry of mimeograph letters arrived offering all owners and renters the generous incentive of $200 if they moved within the next 6 months. The letter reminded everyone that they would all be evicted anyway, so resisting would only cost them unnecessary legal expenses. The committee countered with flyers posted on street corners. We have to hang together or we'll hang alone. Don't move an inch. Aetna's fighting for your home. Within 3 months, as word spread about how the city had treated the people of Section 1, a third of all residents along the projected route had grabbed the offer and moved out. Thank you.